So today, we're going to take a look at a really fascinating case study in how celebrities communicate. We're talking about the global music phenomenon BTS and how they're reportedly dealing with a big storm of online criticism. But here's the thing. Instead of big, loud denials, their strategy seems to be, well, way more subtle.
It's a huge question, isn't it? I mean, when you're a star at the level of BTS, literally every single move you make is put under a microscope. So when you're faced with all that negativity, the rumors, the outright hate, what do? Do you fight back? Do you just stay silent and hope it goes away? Or is there another way entirely? And that's exactly what we're going to dig into today by looking at what they've been doing lately.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to set the stage and talk about this recent spike in online hate they've been facing. Then we're going to break down three really distinct case studies, Jimin, Jungkook, and RM, and see how each of them responded to the pressure. And finally, we'll pull it all together, look for the pattern, and figure out what it all means.
Okay, so first things first, you gotta understand the context here. This isn't just about one little isolated incident. According to reports, several members of BTS have recently found themselves right in the crosshairs of some pretty significant and varied online attacks, and it's created a really challenging climate for the whole group.
And this criticism is coming from literally all angles. You've got critiques of their professional work, like V's collaboration with Coca-Cola, for example. But then you also have these really intense, deeply personal attacks, especially this huge wave of dating rumors. So you have this mix of professional and personal scrutiny all happening at once, and it creates this super complex web of negativity that they have to try and navigate.
All right, let's kick things off with our first case study, Jimin. He was recently at the very center of a massive rumor, and his response, or maybe his lack of a direct response, sparked a whole new conversation.
So the whole thing started with a dating scandal that linked him with the actress Song Da-eun. And you know how these celebrity dating rumors go? It just spread like wildfire online, creating a ton of buzz and a whole lot of pressure for him to come out and say something.
So right in the middle of all this noise, Jimin gets on Weverse for a live stream. But he doesn't mention the actress, he doesn't mention the rumors at all. Instead, he says this. It's this very philosophical, almost kind of sad comment about how hard it is to be a good adult and feeling like he's just pretending. And for his fans, this was everything. It was seen as this indirect nod to all the pressure he was feeling, like a little window into his state of mind, without ever having to touch the specifics of the controversy itself.
But yeah, not everyone saw it that way. In fact, across a lot of online communities, the reaction was pretty harsh. The one word that kept popping up over and over was avoidant. Critics felt that because he didn't give a clear denial, he was just dodging the issue, and that only added more fuel to the fire. And this right here is the perfect example of the risk you run with indirect communication. What one person sees as subtle and thoughtful, someone else sees as just plain evasive.
Okay, so let's move on to our next case study and see how this pattern develops. We're turning to the group's youngest member, Jungkook, who is also facing some intense rumors about his personal life. But his response? It wasn't verbal at all. It was all about action.
Now, the accusations against Jungkook, they were pretty aggressive. He was being painted as a womanizer supposedly involved with multiple women. And these rumors apparently really started to gain traction after he did a series of live streams where, every single interaction and comment was being picked apart by viewers, leading to this huge explosion of gossip.
So what did he do? He didn't release a statement. Instead, he went into a kind of digital lockdown. He systematically started increasing his privacy on TikTok, which is a platform where he's super active. First, he turned off his comments, which stopped any public discussion on his posts. Then he made his following list private, so people couldn't speculate about who he was interacting with. And finally, he made himself untaggable, which took away yet another tool people could use to try and link him to others. This is such a powerful, non-verbal message, right? It's a clear action that basically says, I'm stepping out of this conversation and I'm taking back control of my space.
And that brings us to our final case study, the group's leader, RM. He was facing this sort of double-barreled blast of criticism, and he responded with a message that seemed to be about more than just his own situation. It felt like it was about everything the group was going through.
So RM basically got hit from two sides at once. First, he was accused of hypocrisy after a speech he gave, which was an attack on his professional side. And then, almost at the same time, he got swept up in his own dating rumors, this time involving Seulgi from the group Red Velvet. It was just this rapid-fire series of attacks on both his character and his personal life.
And then, during a surprise live stream, RM comes on and says this. Again, no mention of the hypocrisy claims, no mention of the dating rumors. Instead, he speaks directly to the fans, to ARMY. He basically draws a line in the sand. He creates an us, that's BTS and ARMY, and a them, which is all the noise happening out there. It was a clear call for the fandom to just ignore all the chatter and focus on their core relationship. It was a classic leader's move, trying to calm the waters for everyone.
Okay, so we've looked at 3 different members, 3 different controversies, and 3 pretty distinct responses. But when you start to put them all together, a really clear pattern begins to emerge. So let's break down exactly what that is.
The common thread tying all of this together, it's this idea of indirect communication. This is the key concept for us today. You can think of it as the art of speaking on a subject without ever actually saying its name. Whether it's through a philosophical thought like Jimin's, a symbolic action like Jungkook locking down his social media, or a broad unifying statement like RM's, the strategy is basically the same. Acknowledge the feeling and the situation, but never the specific accusation.
And this table here, it just lays it all out so clearly. You've got Jimin, who uses a vague, personal comment to hint at the pressure he's feeling. You've got Jungkook, who uses the actual tech features of a social media app to create distance. And then you have RM, who uses this unifying message to his fans to redirect everyone's focus inward. 3 totally different methods, but they all point to one single overarching strategy.
So here's the really crucial takeaway from all this. The playbook they seem to be using is not about direct confrontation. We are not seeing formal statements from their company denying every single rumor. Instead, the members themselves seem to be choosing the strategy of illusion and action. They are communicating, but they're doing it on their own terms, in a way that lets them acknowledge the emotional weight of the situation without getting dragged down into a messy public fight over every little detail.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. In an industry where image is absolutely everything and fans are constantly demanding authenticity, what's the real impact of this approach? Is it a sign of weakness, a way of being avoidant, like Jimin's critics said, that just leaves people wanting clear answers? Or is it actually a strategic strength, a way to maintain your dignity, to avoid giving oxygen to baseless rumors, and to ultimately keep control of your own story in the face of just overwhelming scrutiny? There is no easy answer, for sure, but it's definitely something to think about the next time you see a global star in the hot seat.